This episode is sponsored by DESCO Service, a woman-owned biomedical repair company led by CEO Andrea Bordenca, supporting women across industries. You can learn more about DESCO at descomed.com. Welcome to In the Room, a series spotlighting the voices of the Women in Leadership, or WIL Society. In male-dominated industries like HTM and beyond, women are often expected to adapt, to fit the culture, adjust their communication, or navigate systems that weren't designed with them in mind. This podcast explores what happens when that dynamic shifts, when women stop shrinking to fit the room and begin reshaping it together. Each episode features candid conversations with leaders who are advancing their careers, building influence, and redefining power from the inside out. This is where perspective turns into power, because when women lead collectively, the room never stays the same. Welcome to In the Room. Today we are here with Nicole Koharik, Head of Corporate Brand and Communications at PartSource. Nicole, thank you so much for being here. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Emily. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Yes, thanks for the introduction. I've been in marketing and communications leadership roles for over 2 decades, and 10 years of that has been spent in the healthcare supply chain, which is really extremely meaningful work to me. And I'm also proud to serve the HTM industry as an HTMA Ohio board member and a Women in Leadership ambassador. And just wanted to share a little bit about why WIL is so important to me and the work that we're doing. I graduated from an all women's college, and I experienced the power of environments that uplift women and empowering women to lead with confidence, and learning that through my classmates and all of the professors invested in our success. And really, I entered college kind of unsure of, what I wanted to do and very timid. I was still am an introvert. So having that experience and, bringing together people who are really invested in supporting and uplifting women and having someone kind of pull me out of my shell really woke me up to the opportunities to help other women now that I've progressed in my career. So I'm excited to be here supporting other women, and especially in, male-dominated industries, it's extra important. So I know we're going to talk about that, but just wanted to give some background on my passion around the topic.
Oh, thank you so much. Could you tell me more about what HTM means to you, like being a part of this industry? Like you were saying it was really special to you. I want to hear more about that.
Absolutely. Healthcare technology management is so important because if you think about healthcare, we all have relatives and ourselves, even who have experienced the healthcare system. I actually experienced it more than I would have liked to recently. In Q1 here, I was hospitalized and saw it firsthand. But to me, when I think about the power of what happens to deliver care, you know, everyone focuses on the doctors and the nurses and the clinicians. And of course, they're such an important part of the equation. But no one thinks about the medical equipment that is there to save lives. And more importantly, the people behind that equipment who keep it running in order to deliver care. So having the opportunity to be part of the HTM community and to talk with customers and others at events that are doing this work behind the scenes and working really hard to make the industry better and to find new, more efficient ways to deliver, care through the maintenance and proactive management of the healthcare equipment is really, really special. And I'm lucky to have formed many relationships here in this HTM industry. I've been with PartSource. It'll be 7 years in July. So
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. Exciting milestone. But really, the relationships that I've built with customers and talking to providers directly about what they're doing and how much they care about their teams and the technicians and and talking to them at industry shows like MD Expo and Amy is just so rewarding. So I love being a part of it and playing a small role in helping tell those stories of success, because everyone knows there's a lot of challenges in healthcare in general with rising costs and, challenges in terms of not only getting the work done, because if you think about the healthcare industry right now, the demand is really high and the care, making that care happen, it is challenging because of many things.
How did you first hear about Will? What about Will made you like want to be a part of it and want to like be connected with that?
Yeah, well, I first heard about Will through Kim Rowland, who is our former and original Will vice president and PartSource and RSTI are sister companies. So I got to know Kim through that relationship, and she brought me to my first Amy Will reception 2 years ago before I was a member to learn about it. And I was just touched and really impressed and inspired by all of the amazing women gathered together in the room to talk about the future of HTM and to uplift each other, and multiple generations and different, women from providers as well as suppliers and vendors and service organizations and third parties all coming together to support each other and to solve this bigger problem of elevating women in the field of HTM. So I was excited to be a part of it. And after that, I said, I'm in. What can I do? And shortly after that, became an ambassador and got more involved. And again, those relationships are really important. And I love being part of it and helping guide other women as they come into the industry to learn more about, Will and what we do and how we champion each other. And we have this phrase about, no one's sitting alone. So when we go to these industry events like MD Expo and Amy, and you have your Will pin, right? Today I'm wearing my Will shirt. We wear our Will pins to make sure that other women who maybe don't have a group there or maybe traveled with men from their company have other women to connect with and talk to and take an interest in them. So it's been really rewarding to be an ambassador. And again, it goes back to my experience in college, and anytime we can get women together to support each other and to ideate about how we can elevate women as a collective in HTM, it's a win for not only the individuals, but for our companies and the entire industry.
That's awesome. I feel like I'm getting a real sense of community from what you're talking about, like all women's college, like that, like sense of community. And I love the no one sitting alone. And if you have like the pins, everyone's going to be like, oh, like, what's that? And then you can be like, oh, it's our super cool club. Like, come join.
Yes. And then everyone wants them. So we get to pass them out, which is a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
It's really about creating that sense of belonging, right? And I think that's so important when I think about, early in my career versus now. I think that's what I wanted most, is that sense of belonging. And when you have a group like Will really focusing on not just women, but women in leadership, elevating each other to do better and to have an impact, it can be really powerful because you belong to this community and you have all this support, and having that level of support really can make a difference in terms of the success that you can achieve personally for your company and for the industry.
That is beautifully said. Thank you so much. Could you tell me more about like that sense of belonging and like how that factors into relationship building at like these events?
Yeah, I think when I think about relationship building, I think about a few things. And nobody talks about the hidden costs of relationship building. And I think there's like this stress, right? That I've seen of people, especially newer in their career, like I have to do my full-time job and meet people and put myself out there. So I think it's important for those that, are a little further along in our careers to help those people. And I would say that it shouldn't be stressful. And it's important to recognize that stress and to recognize, I'd say for everyone in the industry, to recognize what we carry being underrepresented, right? That can be heavy. And it's not just about establishing connections. It's really about building relationships and, more importantly, building trust. And I think when you think about it through the lens of trust, it's just about being consistent and, not putting so much pressure on yourself. I think my advice would be to focus on, progress versus perfection. I know a lot of people I talk to, and myself included a long time ago in my career, really, especially being, an introvert, wanted to be a perfectionist, wanted everything wanted all the right words to say, and, didn't want to put myself out there or have that conversation unless I felt like I was prepared. And I would encourage anyone who is building their network not to think that way, that you don't have to be perfect. And especially with women in leadership, it's a safe space to make those connections and be your authentic self. And we want you to bring your whole authentic self to these conversations. And I think that's the beauty that having an organization like Women in Leadership can bring, because it's a place to be safe and have those connections. And those connections are facilitated through the networking sessions that we have at various events and through the webinars that we host to help women through challenges that they're having in their career. It's also to say, you're not alone. It's, we're all challenged with a similar set of challenges. Those challenges may look different for people early in their career or later in their career or anywhere in between, but the commonality is there in that we're all, working together to ultimately drive the end goal of the industry, which is, patient care. So we have that common goal and we have each other, and, building relationships shouldn't feel like work. It should feel like a natural extension of yourself. And I know it can be stressful. So I just encourage people to have the conversation. And sometimes you'll be surprised when you have the conversation, what it can lead to, even if you're scared when you're doing it.
Yeah. I wish I talked to you like 3 years ago. Because I relate to that so much, like going into different events. Like I've been to quite a few different events in like the past few years, like working with DESCO, not all necessarily HTM related. And yeah, that you pretty much described me like going into these events. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, how do you talk to people? Like, I feel like it's kind of like I almost feel like I don't belong here, as like, kind of like a symptom of imposter syndrome or something like that.
Yeah, that's so common. And it's so important to know that you matter and you have value and you have a right to be there because you're in the room. So just lead with your authentic self and let the rest unfold. Don't worry about it. Another thing I've learned is control is an illusion. So you let go of the perfection, let go of the control, because you can't manage other people, what they think about you, their perceptions, or what they're going to do. All you can do is manage yourself and how you show up. And if you put your best foot forward and lead with your authentic self and your passion for what you're doing, everything else will fall into place.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And you even said like progress over perfection. That's like that exact thing. I've been trying to practice that more and more and more. I've definitely gotten a lot better, but I still have some ways to go. Like it's really interesting, like making that just like mental conscious shift of like, when you're in that perfectionism state, you're kind of like I mean, from my personal experience, I've like looked back on things and been like, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. And then you kind of like spiral in that. And it's like good to acknowledge those things, but it doesn't actually help you to just sit and stir in it. So I've tried to, like, even if it's like not exactly where I want to be, I've tried to be like, oh, well, you did this, that was good. Or like, try to do more of that. And like, kind of like in those like spiraling states after an event, checking yourself and being like, oh no, but I did this good. And trying to focus on those things more, I think has like helped me a lot in those situations.
That's good. Sounds
Yeah.
like you do a lot of good self-reflection, and I think that's really important. And I think we're always our own worst critic, but if you could lead with what went right and the fact that give yourself credit for even being there, right?
Yes.
You were there, you showed up, and you had the conversations, and that's what really matters. And that's what people will remember. They will remember the things that you are, stressed about or think that I think we tend to overanalyze and be critical of ourselves. And I'd encourage other women to let that go and just to lead with your authentic self and be you and know that the people you talk to are not thinking as critically about it as you are.
Yes. They never are.
Your presence is a gift. So if you see it that way, then you'll show up that way.
That is very true. That is a good piece of advice. At DESCO Service, we believe in leading with people first. Our vision is to be the global model for customer service while continuing to elevate women in HTM and other male-dominated industries. We are committed to creating inclusive workplace environments where employees feel supported, valued, and empowered to grow. So going off of what we were just saying about, like, how has Will changed your approach in seeking visibility or self-promotion?
That's a great question. I would say a few things. One, while I've been in the industry 7 years, I've been, very visible within my own organization. But after joining Women in Leadership and connecting with some of my colleagues and peers, more opportunities have come my way. I've been more visible. And for example, after joining Will and connecting with the president of HTMA Ohio at an event in Kentucky a few years ago. That's how the opportunity for me to join the board of HTMA Ohio came up. So Will's definitely opened the door to more leadership opportunities. And I'm very passionate about volunteering in this industry. And it's fun to connect and work with providers and other vendors and partners to think about how can we elevate HTM in the state that we're in. And I've lived in Ohio my entire life. So I was really excited about the opportunity to be on the board of HTMA Ohio. And it's been a really rewarding experience. HTMA Ohio has one of the premier state association events of the year, and that's every February. So it's been really fun to be a part of that. And also, we were the Amy Association of the Year last year. And I've really enjoyed opening up my network more and working more with others in that capacity at HTMA Ohio. It's been a lot of fun and a great way to give back and leverage my communication skills, which is, my core career for an industry that I love. So I manage the HTMA Ohio LinkedIn and am doing other fun things in terms of helping them get more organized around how we communicate and engage our members. So it's been rewarding to use those skills that I use in my daily job at PartSource for the broader industry.
That's amazing. You're very busy. That's like yeah. Wow. You're like that's amazing. How do you think all of these things like with Will, with all these fun projects that you're doing, how do you think that connects to sponsorship? And like how would you define sponsorship?
Yeah, it's a great question. I always like to start with a definition, so I appreciate you saying that. To me, sponsorship is when someone uses their position or influence to have a positive impact on another person and ultimately in a way that changes their trajectory. I really think that's what it's about. It's about advocating for someone when they're not in the room. It's about putting your name, next to that person to say, I believe in them. Let's give them this opportunity. Let's open this door. And it can lead to many open doors as well as new levels of trust. And back to the previous conversation, takes that pressure off to perform and to be perfect because when someone believes in you, anything's possible.
Can you talk more about like the trust that goes into that kind of relationship?
Yeah, I think building trust is number one because sponsors are looking for potential, but beyond potential, it's really about someone who shows up consistently and someone who has learning agility and curiosity and engagement and passion. So when you see those things, you're willing to put your name out there, right? You're willing to give that person your credibility, borrow your credibility, for example, because they are showing up and they're showing you that I have a stake in this industry. I want to participate. I want to do good things. I just need the guidance and support to do so. And sometimes that's all it takes. So I think sponsors are looking for those opportunities, always scanning for potential to take that potential and say, how can I lend my experience, my name, my connections to make that person's life better at work and change their trajectory in a way that matters and has a positive impact.
Okay, so if someone were to be seeking advice about like how they would position themselves for sponsorship, what would you tell them?
I think it's about those things we said before. It's about curiosity. It's about how you show up. It's about learning agility. And it's about consistency. Consistency is how trust is built. Showing up consistently, really honoring commitments, putting yourself out there, even when it's not comfortable, even when you don't feel ready, because that's what leadership is. None of us are really ready. You just have to do the right thing, right? So when you see someone who shows up consistently, wants to do the right thing, and has the motivation and curiosity to drive positive change, you can't help but want to help them. And I think showing up in those ways separates the people who, are able to get that sponsorship from those who maybe aren't putting themselves out there. So a message for the introverts, it's it's important to put yourself out there even if you're not comfortable, and remember that you're your own worst critic, and that, I think if you think about yourself as you have value to bring and you are seeking support and people out there want to support you, it changes, how you think about it. It's less scary because you're just fulfilling a need. You are giving yourself, part of yourself, to a company, to an industry, and that's needed, right? You're in your role for a reason. No matter what you're doing at what level, you're there for a reason. So you already earned that right. You have the value to be there. The next step is just leveraging your position to, make the right connections and to get more support. And I think that's the beautiful thing about sponsorship is, you know, if you have the potential, a sponsor can really, really help you up level your career and open doors that maybe you couldn't on your own. And that's, as someone who's been at it for a few decades, I really do see a lots of opportunity to, always scanning for potential. How can I help other people? And how can I give advice that I needed, 10 years ago? So that's my mindset when it comes to sponsorship.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's almost like exposure therapy, being an introvert and like kind of like throwing yourself into these things. Like what you were saying about like, even if you don't feel like you're ready, like just do it. It's almost like a flip of the script and like just being like, okay, I'm just gonna do it like that. There was like it was like a quote, I'm probably gonna butcher it, but it was something about like courage, and courage is not the lack of fear, but it's like the doing it despite being afraid.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And
You did
I
not butcher it. You are spot on. It is true. And I
thank
think
you.
sometimes you have to learn that by doing it. You know, you just have to step forward. I mean, I've been doing that my entire career. When I started out in a very male dominated industry, industrial floor coatings, yes, way more male dominated than HTM. I had a couple opportunities, and one of them early on was a presentation in front of the entire, company at a national sales meeting of a couple hundred people. And at the time, I was very early in my career and I was very introverted and I was scared to death. So I found a Toastmasters group and worked on my public speaking because I had this opportunity and I knew it was important for my career. And I just did the thing that I feared and doing that. And I think that's another kind of lesson learned is don't just throw yourself in the deep end. Think about what do I need to be successful here? Maybe I don't love public speaking. I'm thinking about myself back then. But what I did know is that there were groups that I could learn from and join. And I ended up joining Toastmasters with a female colleague of mine. And we had fun with it. It built our relationship, and we both were able to get over our fear and do the presentations at the national sales meeting. So I would say, think about the tools you need and the people who can help you and seek sponsorship. Find the people who can help you. And sometimes there's like Will, for example, so much experience and knowledge and expertise in HTM in the Will community. So I encourage anyone who's listening who is not connected, who's looking for support and community to reach out to us. I'm happy to talk to anyone, but please reach out and let's just have a conversation, see how we can help you.
That's so interesting too, because, it's like you have this big like national meeting and you're kind of like a little bit nervous for it. It's like, oh, I feel like, it can be easy to be like, I shouldn't be afraid of this, or like I should go right into it. But then like you never know like the good things that can come of tools like that group and like the relationships you could build there as well. So it's like, the importance of like the journey.
Absolutely. You were so right. That's another thing that came out of it that you just reminded me of. This was a long time ago, but I knew, obviously, in communications, that speaking was important for my career. So I took it very seriously. And then I ended up loving Toastmasters so much that they made me the chapter president.
Oh my
So
gosh.
So
That's
sometimes
amazing.
and I find this, when you put yourself out there, something good will come from it. Not only will you get over the thing that you were working on strengthening, but sometimes another door will open as a surprise. So it was another early leadership opportunity for me. And so that's why I encourage people to just do the thing that you fear the most. I learned that in sophomore high school speech class. Our teacher said, do the thing you fear the most, and the death of fear is certain. And it's very true.
Yeah, that is very powerful. I remember I was like a hostess at a restaurant. It was like my second job ever, and I was so scared of getting the phone. And my coworker who was training me, he was like, "Oh, I'm glad to know that you're scared of the phone because now I'm never answering it again, and that's all you."
There
So,
you
um,
go.
yeah, here you go. And, I wanted to get better at like talking with people. I wanted to be a server there eventually. And I was like, oh, like, well, if I'm afraid to get the phone, like, how am I going to talk to my tables? So I was forced to get the phone. And then, being a server, you have to talk to your tables. So I feel like that even like the smallest things that you wouldn't expect, like prepare you for like future things that you want to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Yeah. I've done like a few like workshops with Andrea, and those were like so invaluable. Like they were like priceless. And I don't think I
Yeah,
would have
she's
been able to.
fantastic.
Yeah, I don't think I would have been able to do it if I didn't like be a server for a few years. Like it's so interesting. Like you wouldn't maybe even realize everything you've done to get to where you are now until you kind of like look back.
It's so true. Yes, every experience teaches us and prepares us for the next step.
Mm. And another piece of advice, what would be like some tools and tips and tricks specifically for a woman who is dealing with imposter syndrome and was coming to you and asking you for help with imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome. I think we've all had it at different points, and, it's very common. I would say the most important thing is to realize, one, imposter syndrome is when you're in a role and you feel like maybe you don't deserve to be there, or that people will find out that you're not as good as, as that role would position you as. But I would say to challenge that assumption and that you're in the role. So because you're in the role, you deserve to be there, or you would not have been selected for that role. Someone saw your potential. Someone saw your value. And now imposter syndrome is turning that around and saying, I see my own potential. I see my own value. And that's really what it's about, is believing what other people see in you so you can see it yourself and get out of your own way.
Yeah, that is a really good way of putting that. Do you have anything else you want to share about sponsorship? Anything that maybe we didn't touch on that you would like to add?
So back when I was in industrial floor coatings, I was leading marketing for an $11 million floor coating manufacturer really early in my career. And I had the opportunity to hire a marketing assistant. And it was my first time as a people leader recruiting, interviewing, and hiring someone. I had other direct reports that I had been given when I was promoted into the marketing manager role, but I had the opportunity to hire someone. And then I hired a woman named Stacy, and Stacy just was fantastic from the beginning. I saw her potential, and I was just delighted to be in a position that early in my career to be able to help another woman succeed and change her life with this job. So I saw her potential and worked with her. She didn't come from a classical marketing background, so it was fun to coach her and to see her grow. And our careers took us in different paths, but today, many, many years later, she is one of my closest friends. So that connection, became lifelong, and little did I know it at the time. So I guess that's another piece of advice, is every connection you make, some are fleeting and some are for a period of time and some are lifelong. So we don't know that when we're meeting people, and just treat every connection as you never know what kind of situation you're going to be in with that person. That person could be the person to open the biggest door of your career, or they could become your best friend. So always network with the spirit of possibility and what that relationship could turn into.
They say strangers are just friends you haven't met yet.
True. Yes, that's absolutely true.
This is so exciting. And I really appreciate talking with you today. Thank you so much for sharing all of your experiences. You have a lot of experience in leadership positions. It's really cool to get to talk to you. So thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. My pleasure, Emily.
Thank you for listening to this episode. I'm Andrea Bordenca, the CEO of DESCO Service. I'm proud to sponsor this episode of Women in Leadership's podcast to elevate the voices of women in the room.
Thank you for being in the room. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow, share, and stay connected for more conversations that move leadership forward. You can learn more about the Women in Leadership Society at will-in-htm.com. Remember, wherever you are in your leadership journey, you belong here. And whoever didn't expect you to be here, they'll get used to it.